Before I'm going to allow this to be amplified in the way that you want, it is going to have to be shown, demonstrated to me that it's a reliable way to do it.
Then we would request an adjournment to do that now.
Well, we're not going to adjourn the case now to do that.
Well, before I am done with my cross-examination of this witness, I would like to use this video, and I will need some time to make arrangements for what you're asking. So I would ask that before I am, I would like time to do that before I'm done cross-examining this witness, because this is an important exhibit that I intend to use with this witness.
Well, it depends. Why don't you get on it right away, and maybe you can get somebody to testify on this within minutes. I don't know. So we'll take a break.
What operating system are they using on the iPad?
We can answer that question.
Do you know?
Not off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Well,
iPad market.
okay. Let's aim for 3:20 on that clock, which is
Right.
yeah. Let's aim for 3:20.
Okay, so we've been listening to some of the most compelling testimony I've heard live in my lifetime. I'm watching this. It's a high-profile case. Obviously, Kyle Rittenhouse is trying to free himself of these charges. I believe there's 2 homicide charges in there and assault charge as well. A lot of charges, gun charges as well, across state lines, et cetera, et cetera. But the fascinating part for us, for me, and the reason why we're staying with it is because Judge Bruce Schroeder really getting into it with the assistant district attorney of Kenosha, Wisconsin, Thomas Binger, getting back and forth all afternoon. The judge is getting completely annoyed with the prosecuting attorney. And so what we want to do, we want to bring Megyn Kelly in. We have a lot to talk to her about. And I heard the judge say he'll bring the jury back around 3:20 Central Time, 4:20 Eastern Time, so we have about 15 minutes before we hear from them again. But in the meantime, we're fortunate to have one of the smartest people on the planet and also an attorney, Megyn Kelly, host of the Megyn Kelly Show on Sirius XM and podcast as well. You got to watch those. But Megyn, compelling stuff. I mean, it started yesterday when one of the witnesses basically admitted that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't shoot him. He was one of the victims of a gunshot. Didn't shoot him until that man pointed his gun, and his name is Gage Grosskreutz, until he pointed his gun at Kyle Rittenhouse. I think that kind of took that charge off the table for Rittenhouse. So there are now 2 people who are dead, and they're going through some of this. But in the meantime, that judge, tell us the interaction between that judge and that district attorney, the prosecutor, what that tells you as a lawyer.
The prosecutor, the assistant there, is getting his rear end handed to him. This is humiliating. I almost feel bad for him because as a lawyer, it's not every day you take a beating like the one this judge is giving this prosecutor in court. And this should be his big moment, right? We didn't know whether Kyle Rittenhouse was going to take the stand. And they put him on the stand today, an extraordinary move. I happened to step in some good luck when today on my show I had the lawyer who was representing, one of the lawyers representing Kyle Rittenhouse up until a week ago. He was on my show for something else. And then this is all unfolding while he's live on the air with me. So I had the chance to ask him, what's going on? He said, I was against having the guy testify. I didn't want Kyle to testify. He's too young. He didn't think it was necessary. He thinks Kyle's undergoing PTSD, and we saw him break down on the stand today. And I don't know that they did need to put him up, but the prosecution hasn't laid a glove on him. Now the defense is looking kind of prescient because Kyle's getting in all of his defense. He's definitely humanized himself with the tears, and to me, he seems very sincere. And I'm sure to the jury, watching him up close, they're feeling that way. He's not some professional actor. And this guy, the prosecutor, isn't laying a glove on him. And while the judge's berating of this prosecutor takes place outside the presence of the jury keeps having to get up and leave. It's like a musical chairs game where you just have to stand, sit, up, down, get out, get in. Because generally you don't want to prejudice either side by yelling at the lawyers. Megyn, but he's killing them.
Let me ask you, so as a jury member, as a lawyer who analyzes juries, and it's a huge study, as a jury member, this constantly getting up and down, they must get the sense that the judge is being annoyed with the prosecutor, right? Not the defense?
Yeah, probably. There's no way the jury doesn't know that the judge does not like this prosecutor. I mean, the judge is making it very clear he doesn't like him. And I have to say, he is very grating. He's just sort of this slow boil of annoyance with his manner and his demeanor and the way he's speaking to the judge. And today, other than Kyle's breaking down in the stand, the two big moments were when the judge just exploded
Well, I think
on
we have
Binger.
that. I think we have that.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have that control? And if you have that soundbite, please play that judge yelling at the DA.
I had heard nothing in this trial to change any of my rulings. So why?
Testimony, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
That was before the defense
Don't
testimony.
get brazen with me. You know very well that an attorney can't go into these types of areas when the judge has already ruled without asking outside the presence of the jury to do so. So don't give me that. Why would you think that that made it okay for you without any advance notice to bring this matter before the jury? I was astonished when you began your examination by commenting on the defendant's post-arrest silence. That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years. I have no idea why you would do something like that.
All yours, Megyn.
That's a real problem. Let's start with the most recent one first. Impugning the defendant for exercising his Fifth Amendment right not to comment on the case against him is a serious no-no. I mean, that in and of itself could be grounds for a mistrial with prejudice. The defense could get this case kicked with prejudice to where the prosecution cannot bring it again. Normally, the defense considers it a mistrial a win, right? Because it's just like you've gotten to see the entire prosecution's case and you get to start over with a new jury. I don't know that they want that in this case because they're winning. The defense is winning. But to get it kicked with prejudice would be a huge win. I don't think that that's where this is going to go, just for the record, because while the DA did seem to get into Kyle Rittenhouse's right to remain silent, and now this is the first time you've ever commented on this, right? And you've gotten to sit back and watch the other witnesses testify, and you've gotten to see the evidence. I personally don't think it was so egregious that it's going to end this trial. But it's a possibility. He certainly created a problem for himself that didn't exist before. And the second thing is, he's trying to say that Kyle Rittenhouse considers it okay to use his gun in defense of property, and that's really what he was preparing to do and was doing that night, that he wasn't actually trying to defend his life, that he was trying to antagonize, and that he's got a history of using his gun to defend property. And to get that in, he's pointing to an incident that happened 15 days before the incident at issue, where Kyle Rittenhouse expressed a wish that he had his gun so that he could defend a car, is my understanding. He didn't actually have his gun. He just expressed a wish that he had it so he could defend a car. And the judge is saying, I already excluded that nonsense before we got to trial, and you are not allowed to bring that up.
An egregious error by the district attorney, because the judge said prior to trial, you can't bring this in. He thought he'd sneak it in, and the judge said, no way.
Yeah, he said, well, I thought you left the door open. And the judge was saying, I left the door open for me to change my mind. Right. And you would have needed to ask that in advance, not just do it when it had been prohibited.
Yeah, and again, this matters because when the judge gives the jury final instructions, you know, that's one of those gray areas where you can really push something in a direction. Megyn, before we move on to the other topic, which we originally brought you on for, the Don Lemon situation, but before we move on to that, because of the way it was going yesterday, I think that testimony by that one guy basically blew his portion of the case up.
That's
do you think that was
that case is done?
Yeah,
do
you think that was the momentum that Kyle Rittenhouse and his attorneys felt, the opening that they felt, put him on the stand? Because typically you wouldn't see a defendant on the stand like this, right?
No, I haven't figured out why they put him on the stand yet. I really haven't. They're winning. So, you know, it was a risk. Maybe they just have so much confidence in this prosecutor's incompetence that they thought they could take the risk and they wanted to humanize Kyle. They're getting some things out of Kyle that are helpful for their case and having him respond to a couple of the allegations. I'm sure they have some method to their madness. So far, it's going fine for them. Yeah. But yeah, the case, there's 2 counts of murder for the 2 people Kyle killed. And then there's another count, there's several counts, but the other thing relates to his shooting of this third defendant, Grove. And that case is done. He took the stand. He survived, of course. He was shot. And he took the stand and said it wasn't until he pointed his gun at Kyle with his arms down at Kyle, who was down on the ground, that Kyle fired on him. I mean, it's a clear case of self-defense. I think that one's completely done. I don't expect there to be any difficulty in getting rid of that piece of it. And with respect to the other 2, all the testimony's gone Kyle's way as well. I mean, the third-party witnesses, Richie McGinnis of the Daily Caller, taking the stand saying the first man he shot was threatening him, was stalking him, was chasing him. The prosecution is going to argue that guy didn't have a gun. So Kyle's belief that this guy was about to shoot him, I guess, was ill-founded. But there's been testimony that there was another person who shot off a gun into the air at the same time that this man was chasing Kyle and then threw a bag at Kyle, whose back was to him. So the jury doesn't have to see that man as having had a gun. They just have to figure out whether it was reasonable for Kyle Rittenhouse to believe that that man was trying to kill him, the man threatening to kill him, chasing him, throwing things at him in the midst of gunfire.
With a reporter being one of the eyewitnesses saying that the victim, the guy who ended up dying, said, "I'm going to effing kill you or rip your heart out," whatever he said.
And
Megyn,
by the way, the second guy who got killed was attacking Kyle, slamming him with his skateboard and trying to take his gun.
Right.